Keep you on
No
your toes.
problem.
Okay, where am I holding the mic? So, I'm James, I'm from Toronto, and my Ignite story was about being sexually molested when I was a teenager. So that was my Ignite moment. And as similar to what JB said, when she was younger, this set my life on a different trajectory of how I felt about myself, how I see myself, how I care myself, and how I set up my own net worth of who I was and how I needed to show up in life. So there came a point that I shoved it away and put it up in a box and ignored it, thinking that ignoring it will work, because that's what you do. And then I started becoming curious about myself and my life and who I was, and I still didn't touch the box until a little while later, especially when that Me Too movement came, and that kind of helped ignite me a bit. I didn't put that part of my story, but that kind of opened it up a little bit, and then I felt like it's time for me to share, and I did a lot of digging, a lot of work to just release all that. I don't have any bad feelings, and you can read in the story a bit more about it, and yeah, so the story was really healing for me to go through it and to be able to fully share it to the world, and my journey of going through it and then becoming a really grounded, aligned, balanced, conscious male that really embraces my feelings and has no problem like kind of expressing my feelings as well. So thank you.
Awesome, Tanya. I'm going to be random so that you're not sitting there like, is she going to pick on me next because I'm on the left or on the right?
Do I need the mic?
All right.
Do I need the mic?
Come on, hold the mic, girlfriend.
Get used to that mic.
Yeah, no. I like the headset better. I'm Tanya Powell. I do live right here in North Vancouver, so it's a huge commute for me to come. So I appreciate all of you that traveled a heck of a lot further. Amazing, and congratulations to everyone, actually. It was, again, Ashley that brought me in. It was Rusty that helped refine my story, and it was JB who helped finalize it, and I appreciate everyone involved in the process, absolutely. My Ignite moment is having a daughter and being a single mom. I used to have her half-time, I now have her full-time as of about January. And there was friction. Dad treats her like my dad treated me, which was like, do as I say, not as I do, my house, my rules. And I've always tried to be a little bit different with Jade. I always got down to her level when she was younger and talked to her, and always tried to give her a choice so she felt she had a little bit of control. And to this day, she's got a lot of control. But she's a good kid because of it, so she takes responsibility. And so in doing that, there was a time when I was really busy with my business, and we had a lot of friction. And I realized that, oh, she's not going to change. I have to change. I can't expect this 10-year-old to change. So I had to go inward and figure things out for myself, and that's my advice to everyone. If things aren't working outside of you, look inside, because that's where the work needs to happen. So there you go.
Hello. So my name is Gab Masamia, and I'm from Los Angeles. My Ignite story was really when I was a kid, 12 years old in the classroom. I was really the shyest one that started a year later, so I just thought that I was stupider than everybody. And I would never talk in class. And so I just tucked away in that little carpet square. And I had a lot of insecurity whenever my birthday rolled around, because it was just another reason for people to talk shit about me, And one Ignite moment that happened was in 9th grade, Miss Carabio's class, was art class, and there was a girl named Ariana. I had to change the name in the book. But she just started having a vested interest in me as a person, as a human being that was much more than romantic. And that was like the slow roll of me being more self-expressed in my life. And I used to hate being shy growing up. I used to hate myself. I used to talk myself down for it, which never really helped. And really what my story and the chapter, which is on page 134, by the way. What it's about is that upon looking back, there's a Japanese saying, before we eat, is called itadakimasu. And it means thank you for everything that it took to make this happen. So with that being said, I look back And without me being shy and hating that part of me, one of the powers is that our pain, your pain can actually transform into a passion. And that's one of my missions now, which is to help heart-centered men to be confident, emotionally available, and self-expressed. And without that pain, I wouldn't have this same vested interest. So I want to thank Yoram on behalf of Itaraki Mas, because without that happening, I wouldn't be here. So with that being said, Itaraki Mas.
Miss Stacy.
Yay!
Thank you. I don't really know what to say, but hello.
You'll find something.
Yes, hello. So I know a lot of people are saying, you got to go inward. They went inward. Their chapters are about going inward. My chapter is about blaming my mom. So I didn't really go inward. She made me terrified of life. My chapter is about being the worst parent ever, so I'm not really sure how I got in the book. But it literally, my children were, my 5-year-old, my night moment was when my 5-year-old said, "You are the worst mom ever!" And I was like, awesome, because I spend a lot of my time worrying about being the worst mom ever, right? It's a constant battle in our head about whether we're good enough, it's good or bad, perfect or imperfect. It's a constant abacus in my head of whether I'm doing enough or not enough, good enough. And that's what my chapter is about, and just trying to figure out whether we, who we are as parents and not being paranoid of judgment from other people and judgment of ourselves, and to just be conscious. And when we're more conscious, we're better for them and ourselves.
Amen.
That's it. Marcus!
I knew you were going to call me.
You knew it. See, intuition speaks.
I am Marcus Kettles, and I live in Ojai, California, which is near Santa Barbara. And I am the child of radical hippie parents from the 60s. And my story was about how you rebel against ultra-liberal parents. You go to USC, remember the scandal? Yeah, so ultra conservative place to feel safe. So that didn't work either. So my story is really about a situation I found myself as a young man, 19, with being diagnosed with a really serious hepatitis disease. And so I was convalescing at my grandparents' house, and I found this book, The Autobiography of a Yogi. Anybody know that book? And I'd seen it before, but it never attracted me, and it was like a beacon. So it was you will learn this book. And it came to me, so 19 years old, sick as a dog, having pretty much failed at my first year, the first time. So I was like in a really vulnerable spot. And this book taught me, ignited me to the power of meditation, the power of faith, the power of transformation on a universul level. And I felt like after I'd read this book, it took me like a couple weeks because I'd be like 4 pages. I'm like, oh, and I'd wake up, the wine helped. So anyway, so I got through it and I said, all right, this is the night. I'm gonna do it. And I channeled in and I opened myself, 19-year-old kid, and I just felt this universal energy, and it was like a amazing blue, universal energy blue, and my body just freaked out, and I passed out, and I woke up in the morning and I felt great, and I went out.
Don't give the plot away.
Yeah, I'm not gonna give away.
Read the book.
But you gotta read the book. I am 112 years old right now. I feel great.
All right, Sadie. come on up. He was gonna give away the plot line. All right, here you go.
I was actually going to refuse to talk, but Ron helped a little bit.
Yay!
I'm Sadie. I live in Alberta, and my story is about. Oh, it's hard to not give away the plot. It was about a really, really financially challenging time. That was really, really hard to get through, and I had a young baby-ish and a toddler, well, a little bit older than a toddler. And me and my husband were so wrapped up in our financial problems, and some stuff happened that made me really, really freaking angry at the world, and angry that people can do bad things to you when you're already in a really bad place. And I had a really hard time speaking to my son.
You're great.
Yeah, we love it. We love it.
Do I have tissue? Sorry, water or something?
You got this.
You got it.
Thank you.
Maybe we should keep a pile up.
Whew. Anyways, yeah, so I had a really hard time because I don't really connect with feelings very well, and so all I connected with was anger and being pissed off at the world and being pissed off that somebody could do something that would hurt us really badly. And my son is a feeler. He really, really, really feels things really hard, and he worries a lot, so much. And I'm a little bit of a worrier, but not too bad. And I was so angry that I didn't think about the fact that when I was talking to him, he wasn't necessarily hearing my words as much as he was feeling my feelings that I was having. And it took him saying something to me that actually made me cry at the time. And it was like, holy crap, you aren't just listening to the words that I'm saying to you, you're feeling my incredible stress and how angry I am, and that's not something that, woo, thank you.
Here's a softer.
Should've been wine.
That's
And that's not what I wanted him to get from this experience. Like, I wanted it to be something that he could look back on and say, hey, my parents really brought us through that experience that was so incredibly hard on us and, helped us. And instead, I felt like all I was doing was teaching him that people are shitty and that we have to be angry at them and that we don't forgive the people for what they do. So I had to really dig really deep and find compassion and forgiveness and let go of the fact that even though we were still struggling so hard through everything, that it was okay to just forgive and let go.
Yeah.
And I'm done.
Fantastic, thank you. We really appreciate you sharing honestly and openly, thank you.
So I'm Mike, I'm from Yorkshire in the UK, and I'm glad that I put some tissues in my pocket just in case. Usually, if I've been on stage doing any presentations, I've always talked about how successful I've been, all the actual opportunities that I've been given, and the things that I've done in the world, and that's been really good, and the audience has been really behind me. But do you know what I'm sharing with you tonight is that was the fake Mike. Mike had a lot of issues as a child. We all have this childhood conditioning, we're told we're not good enough, or we're stifled as a child, or we're silenced. And what that did to me, it just kept me wanting to keep myself small, not to be seen. And what that manifested on in later life was a whole host of addictions. hitting the bottle, smoking all the time, drugs, sex, prostitutions, the whole lot, Not only that, I had the shame, the fear and the grief from that kind of childhood and going through those experiences, but then I take it out on other people as well. So I project my anger outwards, and so things like domestic violence with my partners, it'd be their fault, it would never be mine. And doing all the work that I've done makes you realise that you need to go in and actually address what's going on inside, because you can't show up like this, Yes, I put on a shiny veneer, realised I was a fake, but to be authentic, raw and real with myself is very heart expanding. And what I need to learn to do, and it's a day by day process, is to not rely on these addictions and realise that I can accept myself for who I am. So I've broken out that prison, returned to freedom, and I'm opening up more to love.
Yes, I will just share on that note, when I read Mike's story and our story polished, it was pretty incredible. And as a woman who had domestic violence against her, the healing process that I had with you in your story and who you became and who you were, I was able to sort of heal from that, from my own experience. And I want to thank you very much for that, for me, because I know that all of your stories has a two-sided coin to it. And when you changed and transformed and enlightened and evolved, it gave me hope for the person that had done violence against me. And I healed through you, so thank you for that. Awesome. I just want to say the men's story. Oh my God, they were incredible.
I just want to be a wallflower.
Put the microphone up. There we go.
Well, I'll share my story. I have a fan over there.
You have a lot of fans.
Oh, thank
We're all
you, thank
fans.
you. So my story is about grief and despair. When my father passed away, I couldn't find any meaning in my life. And through a series of events, I became unexpectedly pregnant twice. You think I would learn the first time, right? Anyhow, so I decided to have my kids, and that sort of threw me in the role as a parent. And with having kids, once you have them, there's really no satisfactory return policy. And so I really had to embark on what it means to be a parent. And I basically had to go deep into my own childhood. So I guess what I gained was that my children are my gifts, and this journey as a parent serve as my purpose that became greater than my pain. I also come to realize that the feelings I had as a child are still within me. They don't go away because I'm now grown up physically. So in writing the story has really helped me uncover the wounds and give me a chance to heal. So I want to thank you for that.
My name is Andis. I'm from Latvia. I want to talk about these Ignite moments, actually. The thing is that all of them, all of you, had a lot of them. Maybe they are not conscious. They're not into the awareness. There are thousands, I believe. The choices, the decisions you're making in your lives, those are, maybe you won't recognize them, but they are precious gifts for you. And that's what I wrote during this writing process. I discovered thousands of them. Every decision you make in your life, that is affected by those choices you made. The first I remembered in the book, it was also in the beginning of the story of my book, in the book. It was when I was 7 years old. That was one of those ignite moments when I decided not to retaliate to the bullying that I experienced in the school. That was one of the first ones, because I didn't want things to escalate or go, because aggression will make more aggression. That's like one example, but there are like thousands of them, and everyone has it. Everyone has those moments, and that one is like the ones that are making who you are right now, right here. Just bring them to your awareness. That's my message to you.
Phyllis, thank you.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
It is so wonderful to be here with you all. The parenting book is actually the third book that I'm in, and I wanted so much. Thank you. I wanted so much to be at every book launch and meet the other authors and celebrate, because, I mean, can you believe international best-selling authors? And we share that. It is just incredible. And my experience started at the workshop that JB talked about, that she was at, and she and Rusty made this decision to do this great thing, and I was invited to be a part of the book. I did not want to say yes, but the reason I'd gone to the workshop in the first place was because I'd hit a wall in my life, and I was starting to contract, and I was playing small, and I'd chosen to go to the workshop because that isn't who I wanted to be. So if you're gonna say yes, you have to say yes to everything that comes your way. So I said yes, and then inside I'm going, what the? Like, what now? And I pretty much begged JB and Rusty to make sure that they helped me every step of the way. And it has been such an awesome process. The writing has been transformational. In each case, I had one idea for a story. And then somewhere along the line, it was like, no, that's not the story that wants to be written. And something totally different would come out. And to go to the writer's nest and hear other authors say the same kinds of things, it's like, oh, okay, that's what it means when it's set, when you have the term, the story that wanted to be written, or the painting that needed to be painted. That it doesn't have, in some ways, a lot to do with the author. It's about what needs to come through you. And so to experience that seemed like a really conscious channeling of what was supposed to come through me, which just in itself, to be so sure of that. I know I've experienced a lot through my life, but to actually be consciously aware and sure that that's what's happening has been just a tremendous experience. To be able to stand up here and talk to you and want to talk to you and love to see your faces out there, like that is just, I feel the joy.
I love it. And just so you all know, Phyllis has stepped up to be project leader for her next book. It's called Ignite Your Second Act, which is stepping into that fabulous second part of your life and doing something wonderful. So congratulations to becoming a project leader.
Hello everyone, my name is Mark from Switzerland. Like many beautiful souls on this planet, I used to believe that by achieving extraordinary things, I would finally be good enough. lovable, important. This set me out on a path of becoming an overachiever, perfectionist, really obsessed about giving it all. I was a corporate director for 5 years in a big company, earning $250,000 per year. I participated in national championships in sports, basketball. I was a triathlete, composing music. I even had a girlfriend who was appearing on an explicit magazine cover. Everyone else would say like, wow, what a dream. Yet I was completely burned out. Burned out because I was obsessed about being something, which I wasn't. I was depressed. I spent, one step back, I had, for many, many years, I had chronic pain in my body, like alarming states here and there. But I was still going and trying to give everything. And yeah, until I literally like couldn't do anymore, I got OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, thoughts that you realize that they don't make sense, but you can't free yourself from them. And actually it had to do with sexuality, which appeared to be one of the harshest forms, especially for men, when it comes to the sexual past of your girlfriend, who appeared in a... We had the connection. Good. So I ended up spending more than 1,000 days being suicidal. I spent 6 months in psychiatric clinic. That was after the job as a corporate director. Through like a healing process. Now the reason why I still am standing here, first of all, is my daughter. Because she gave me the strength to go through. I mean, to go through, I was literally on the ground, I couldn't do it anymore. And the Ignite question, which I will reveal, is actually when I start, let's say when the fog started to get away and I started being able to see a little bit. The question was, why do I treat everyone else, even those walking as a pedestrian in the street, better than myself? That was the first big question where I was like, whoa, I even get goosebumps now. And in the book, you will find a little bit of the roots, what happened, what made me this kind of overachiever, and then the process of healing to get me out of it. Page 30.
I will, if there's an Ignite award to go out for the best first sentence, it goes to Mark. You read his story, the first sentence was like, I was like, what? Like, all right, fantastic. We're so grateful for you. Your turn, Christy. Yeah, awesome. Come on out. Yes, you girl. Next year we'll have awards: best sentence, best action step, most words cut out and filled in.
Hi, my name's Christy Yates, and this has been a really great process for me. I've really enjoyed it. So I'm in the parenting book, obviously, and I wrote about a time in my life that was really challenging for me. I've raised, with my husband, a couple of really amazing humans, and but as a parent, sometimes when you're parenting and you're just kind of getting through it, and I've read so many of your stories, I connect and resonate with so many things. You know, parenting's a long game in so many ways, and there were times when I thought, am I doing it right? I'm a terrible mom, or I don't know if it's I don't know what kind of people they're going to turn out to be. And my story is really about discovering, through a really difficult time in my life, what amazing humans my husband and I were able to raise. And I look back to things I learned from my parents, things I learned from my childhood, things I learned from other people, other parents, and just trying to be a good parent, even though there were many times that I screwed up, that we were able to raise really wonderful, compassionate children. I have to tell you, my husband's here with me, and we have been, of course, my children are 22 and 20 now, and they're all over social media, and they are posting all of this, and they're like, yay, Mom! And, oh my God, my mom, everybody, my mom is a bestseller! So that's so meaningful to me because they really showed me so much about how compassionate they are, and I know they saw that somewhere in me and somewhere in my husband. So I know somehow we did good things, right? But the other part of my story is really about the challenge of being in the sandwich generation. And I don't know, I'm sure in Canada you have this too, right? In the U.S. and the rest of the world, raising kids and then caring for your aging parents. And it is a really tough squeeze. Probably 50% of people in the world are dealing with this at some point. And the baby boomer generation is all retiring and getting older, and Alzheimer's is on the rise. And the grief process for that starts before your parents pass away, and that's what I discovered was with my kids kind of being a mirror for me, like, Mom, we know you're better than this. You're on the edge, and you're not. Be nice to Grandma. Be nice to Grandpa. And that mirror to me was so given so lovingly from them, and the compassion they showed to me was humbling. So anyway, thank you.
Come on. You got it.
I made a promise to God. I said, God, you help me do this, and I will do my part. And the one thing that I never took into consideration is that God might actually help me do this. So I found myself in that day, I'm going, oh shit, I need to donate $10,000. Now, the only problem with that, there are two little problems. One of them is we were under a heavy six-figure debt. And we couldn't make ends meet. The other problem was I never told my wife. So this is a story about what happened that day and what decision I had to make, what I had to find in myself, which was integrity at the level of my soul. It's not just, yeah, I'll do what I said. It's just, who do I want to be? Who am I? And am I going to be congruent with who I am? And what I learned that day about being a man in my book has changed who I am, has 100% changed who I am. So what I learned that day through the process is in page 247. And I learned something else though. I learned that had I failed to step up and fulfill my promise, I would have taken down everybody who is a part of that story. Everybody. And that's why my story is called Do Your Part. Because I wholeheartedly believe that this is the century of doing your part. Gone is the century of being the savior of the world single-handedly. The new male is doing your part.
Awesome. All right, Virginia. Virginia.
Oh.
I've been sitting out there listening to all your stories and identifying pieces in each one. And to really be fair in what I'm about to say, I need to refer back to the first book, which was Ignite Your Life for Women. And in that book, I shared some things similar to James. And I also made some decisions like Andis did at an early age. But I forgot those decisions because I fragmented myself and I didn't really know how to get them back. So I found my way through those with my children. That's why in the parenting book, I was able to write about being pregnant and raising my babies. But I lost it when I was getting older, my children got older, because that's when I was retracing my steps. And what I found when I was writing these two stories is that I found a thread of how resilient we are, even as children. And that was huge for me because I've done a mountain of journaling. I'm sure I've got a stack of journals that are this high. I'm going to one day stand them up and take their picture and post it on Facebook so you can all see I've documented it. And so all that writing didn't do what being in these two books did, because I sorted through and found that thread of what had occurred and what I had done to be resilient. And it was very profound for me to see that. And I don't think I know I wouldn't have seen it any other way except through these books. So for that, I have to say I'm eminently grateful.
Mr. Bryce? Yeah. Thank you for doing that. Awesome.
Okay. Let's see if the wine helped.
All right, we got this.
Hi, I'm Bryce, page 94. And my story is about dealing with depression. When I was 7 years old, one day I was playing with my bricks, Lego bricks to be specific, and telling stories, going on adventures. Then the next day, out like a light, nothing, they were just plastic bricks again. And from that point on, I just kind of muddled through life. I'd play the part, smile when it was expected, and do everything I needed to do to not stir the boat, and just try to avoid anything that would be draining, such as talking about said feelings, said lack of feelings. My story's approaching that and coming to terms with the fact that apathy is comfortable, but change is healthy.
That's tweetable.
Then that would be my story.
We'll do back to back. Come on,
Yeah.
daughter and their son and mom. Yeah.
Right. So, of the parents in the room, how many of you would do absolutely anything for your child?
Almost. Maybe.
Especially if you see them suffering.
Yes.
And you know you can do nothing about it. That's where I found myself when Bryce was about 17 years old. And he was going through a period of time that I could see a darkness around him. But I knew that he needed to go through it himself. He needed to work through that darkness and that challenge on his own. And if I were to insert myself into it, if I were to intervene, I knew I'd push him further away. And I'd probably push him over that edge. And I wasn't willing to do that. I had to take that step back no matter how hard it was. That's what I knew I had to do. And I'm so thankful I did, because he's here today, and I love him to bits. And I would still to this day do anything to save his life.
Go Mama.
Yeah, that's
Hey, video, by the way.
Yeah, follow up, follow up, follow up. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Damien.
Thank you. Hi everyone, my name's Damien and I'm from the United Kingdom, and my Ignite moment came when I was 7 years old, and Virginia loves this story. When on Christmas Day, when I was 7 years old.
I love it too.
Oh, you love it too. And it was my first experience of overeating at the age of 7, and that lasted for more than 3 decades. So I had a lifetime, a long, very, very long time with a poor relationship with food, and particularly junk food. And this took a real turn for the worse in 2005, when my youngest son, was diagnosed with a life-limiting condition. And you do anything for your child, but with a life-limiting terminal condition, you can't do anything for them. You just have to literally witness it and suffer with the grief of that every day. And so that was a real turning point. And I put on a mask, and the mask was there to protect me. And I hid behind that mask of positivity and being strong for everyone else, when actually inside I was crumbling. And that was a real challenge, because my eating habits got worse, the addiction became even worse, and I started to get more into alcohol and addiction to sex and various other very, very, very poor choices. And in the end, my relationship failed after 24 years of marriage, and that was largely down to me, and that was my fault that happened. And so for me to experience that was very challenging, because I'd always been taught to have a stiff upper lip and be strong and positive for everyone else, and yet my life was falling apart and I was crumbling. And all of it was to avoid receiving love. And what I was doing by separating from my children through the breakup of my relationship was to separate from my 2 children, the 2 things that I'd created that I loved the most in the world, to avoid receiving their love, which was completely screwed up. And that's when I had the big Ignite moment to realise I needed to do something to get their love back. And when I was spending time with them, I'd turn up feeling really depressed or really sad that I wasn't spending a lot of time with them. So my vibration was very, very low, and I wasn't having a good relationship with them. So I had to change that. So I had to learn how to change my vibration, hold a different energy, and to be able to really go inside from what my heart wanted, which was to have love with them and to share experiences with them. So I learned how to do that, and on page 262 of Ignite Your Life for Men, you can read more about the depth of the story, but more importantly, how I changed that and how I transformed that to an alchemy of changing that negative emotion into something really positive and powerful. I want to say thank you to JB for the amazing idea. Thank you to Rusty for bringing out the story and sharing my emotions on the page. Thank you to Virginia as well for really bringing out the courage in me to write differently. And also to Peter for the amazing algorithms and everything.
Ana Sofia. Wonderful.
Thank you. Well, first, I'm Ana Sofia from Colombia. I live in California right now, so I'm kind of in between 2 big loves. I love my country. I love California, and it's so inspiring to hear everybody's story. That it's just humbling to be here and share everything with everybody. I am in the parenting book, and I have been working on for a couple years about, with this thing that I really need to work on promoting or, inspiring empathy around me. And when I heard Mark tell his story, one of the things that comes to mind to me is how when you're a parent, there's one thing that we don't think about is that the kids are vulnerable. It's not a one-to-one relationship. They are vulnerable. And we are dealing with our own issues, but we have power over our kids. So if we don't work it out ourselves, it's very hard for them to pull it off. So seeing the vulnerability of a parent, being able to say, hey, you know what? This is what I went through, and this is how I'm growing next to you, is so empowering for the child. But we don't really see that much. So in my story, what I tried to do is to tell 3 small stories. I just, started with one, and then I said, I have 3 kids. If I become a best-selling author, and I just told a story about one kid. This is gonna be hard. So I'm just gonna have to squeeze 3 stories into my one story. But the basis of everything I did in my story was just to confront myself to, what are you doing? I mean, this is not about you. It's about that person. They are not yours. They come to this world with their own soul. And you are about yourself right now. So in all of these stories, I kind of try to express very specific situations where I suddenly had to stop and say, stop right there. Is this about you, or is this about your son or your daughter? And then change the whole thing that was going on in me, take my ego away and say, you have to figure it out, because they're vulnerable and they're picking on something that does not belong to them. So this is not in my story, but just to kind of tell you sometimes things that I even
extra author notes.
One day I told my daughter, you know what, you're really mad at me, right? I'm like, I had a watermelon. I was going to start cutting the watermelon. I said, you want to grab the watermelon and just kind of, and she's always so well behaved. Everything is, and I said, if you're so mad at me, why don't you just throw that watermelon? And she was like, really? Just go ahead. And she kind of smashed it. And I'm like, that was how much pressure she had from what I was expecting from her. So I am, I think that when you show them that you're growing with them and you tell them, this is my mistake, let's grow together, it's huge. And I'm very happy to be here in a place where I know we're all working on consciousness. And thank you!
Santiago?
Santiago.
Mi amor.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. I'm Santiago from Argentina. I brought about liberation from invisible prisons. Can you relate to not knowing what's going on in your life and not knowing how you got there and how to get out of it? And
Yes. Yeah, totally.
I realized that I didn't realize that I was trapped in a prison that I couldn't get out for so long. And I was burning through layers of myself, and those burnings through parts of me were so painful that you will see my roller coaster ride in the book. I mean, the book of Ignite Your Life from Ending to 14. I realized that burning through those layers of myself, of my ego, was a part of this healing process, this part of sharing our truth. But first we have to get out of the tales that we are telling ourselves, the narrative that how we think we are, who we are. And I want to share this Ignite moment beyond all those micro-Ignite moments and bumps in my life. That it was when I was talking with Rusty, and she told me, you realize that in this part that was my worst moral point, if you see me like now like white and thin, you will not believe who could I be. So that's a little of suspense for you to read. So this part when we were with Rusty doing the story, it was like, you realize that you're writing in passive voice, like even now, as connected as I look, I realize, wow, I still have blinders that I don't realize that I put myself into victim mode when I go there. So this process of burning through who we are, how we are telling our stories, and when we connect with that process, who we are, how we still see each other, this is the reason that I think you are doing this, JB. And it's so healing, and I'm so thankful for this, because now we can share and emanate our truth. And that's how we really give a reference of what can be, what connection and deepness we can get into our human relationships. And then I realized in this deepness of human relationships, I started finding soul family. And that family that I didn't have, or had, but was absent inside myself, I started finding it elsewhere. That's why I founded La Femme, the soul family gathering together. And now we are all playing in this playground of life, sharing our truths, emanating who we are, and remembering and reconnecting to our truth. So this is part of my path, and I'm so thankful for you helping me.
Miss Ashley, come on up. So I didn't take the time earlier today, which I should have. So, Ashley was the person who stepped up to be the project leader for parenting. So for those of you who are in the parenting book, Ashley was the one who gave so much of her time, courage, patience, and everything. And I just want to acknowledge her for really giving it all.
So parenting, it's a big journey, right? For any of us that have been through reparenting ourselves, I think all of us have been children within a family system. Understanding, it seems to be the theme of tonight, how that transmission takes place. As we look at multi-generational, multi-layered, multifaceted systems, how deep that impact is, and how truthfully it runs from generation to generation. And we try and heal all these symptoms on the outside. We try and get fitter, we try and change our bodies, we try and work harder, we try and get the accolades, the career. I did all of that for my children. So I thought it was for my children. But what I didn't realize was I was carrying this pattern from my childhood. That pattern that had me seeking love and approval from outside of me from a very young age. I had come from a family of poverty. We were 12 in the family, and I'm not sure that I had a voice there. My parents were, in confusion between whether they raise us as per Western standards or as per the life in India that they had come to know. And growing up in that household, the only thing I could affix to was that which was outside of me. Because it was the only thing that gave me the certainty that I would be seen and heard in my light, or so I considered my light to be. And having children really had me recognize that I had had the path so misconstrued based on who I thought I needed to be for the world. And what I came to see through them, and years of pain, because I wasn't willing to let go of all of the constructs that I'd manufactured outside of me, believing that I needed to fit into every single societal and cultural and familial construct. Giving that up was a journey of a lifetime. So in the last 6 years, the amount of work and transformation that's gone on in my life, and I write about it in the Conscious Leaders book, has given me a brand new life in this very lifetime. And I wasn't sure how I would share the magic of what I've come to experience, but that possibility is very available to all of us, as we've witnessed in all of your stories. We have that choice now. We have the tools, and we have the allowance to be in community like this. And that's what JB and Peter and Rusty and the whole team has done here for us, is given us permission to show up as we are and be seen there. Because that is the permission that we require to step out and into something different. To say, I have a choice here to be something different in this lifetime. So thank you. I'm deeply grateful for being able to share my story, the most vulnerable and tender parts of my story that gave me the allowance, once transformed, to come into a completely different way of life. Thank you.
We have one more, Bipin. Come on up, my girl. Yeah, and Bipin. And Sarah. Yeah, come on.
Okay. Peter.
We'll do Peter last.
First of all, I just want to say I'm so privileged to be in this book with all of you wonderful, wonderful people. Like, I'm so incredibly touched, like, by this process. So I just want to say that. So my story was about how I basically lost my shit one day on my daughter. And honestly, this happened during the process of signing up to do this book. And I was like, I don't want to tell that story. That story's going to make me look like terrible. I can't tell that story. I want to tell like a totally different story. Something that would make me still look like I'm, like perfect. And I was just struggling because, and I was telling Rusty that I had my voice recorder on the day this happened because I was feeling so much, and it was really fascinating to listen to myself tell this story in my voice recorder, and I heard it back, and I was telling it in like the most disempowering way to myself. Like just what a loathing kind of horrible person I must be. And so it was just really fascinating because I saw how what I really healed from this experience was that I saw the victim. So my parents had both been kind of victims of their own circumstances. And through my life, I was either, the person that was blaming everyone else, or I was blaming myself. And I didn't know how to not live in that way, where there wasn't someone to blame for everything. So that was my story. I mean, that was really like what I really got to incredibly transform, and it's just been beyond incredible. Like, I'm so grateful for this. Thank you.
All right, my darling, Sarah.
She was patient, right?
I'm Sarah. I'm from California, and I grew up in LA, and I had sort of an unconventional entry into motherhood. So I was working in the refugee camps in northern Ethiopia when I got pregnant, and running a psychosocial program for survivors of torture and forced displacement. And forced to leave that job and had my child in Ethiopia because his father lived there and couldn't get a visa. We were stuck between two immigration systems. Having been so burnt out and pressured by work, I was making some poor decisions for myself, so that relationship really wasn't the one. And 10 months after my son was born, we moved back to, or for me back, but for him the first time, to the US. And started a new life and spent 2 years there. And then I got an opportunity to go to London, and it didn't even occur to me how hard that transition was going to be for my son, leaving his grandparents, leaving all of his friends and the world that he knew from 10 months to almost 3 years. So by the time he was 3 years old, he had lived on 3 continents. And it was the two of us in a foreign city, and he completely changed. His behavior completely shifted, and I didn't know what to do. And I had gotten caught up in all of the busyness and time pressure and stress of being a working mother, and totally lost all of the learning I had had from working with people who have been through the worst experiences you can imagine, which is that connection is the most important thing. And came back to that wisdom through the process of understanding that it really wasn't about me. It was about how my son experienced our relationship, and that I needed to completely shift the way that I was responding to him and living with him and spending time with him, and that doing that and finding opportunities to do that in like a crazy life with no space for that, or seemingly no space for that, could change everything.
Alrighty, Peter. Alright, Peter, pass the torch to O. Come on, Owen. Sorry, Owen. Let's give Owen a round of applause. Alright, sorry, my gorgeous. I didn't see you hiding there.
Yeah. Hi, everybody.
Hi. Hello. Hi.
I'm Eivind from Norway, page 166 in the men's book. In my book, I'm telling the story about breaking through the bars. And it's about the story of how, like, love can block your system so deeply that you don't know what to do about yourself. So for me, it became like a true journey on how I'm here today. And all these incredible people I've met, traveled the world, seen so many amazing things, experienced a lot of crazy things. Probably some of you guys have too as well on this journey of yours. And yeah, for me it was this true love story and the woman I couldn't speak to. Maybe some of you know that story, that you're stuck in a situation where you're so much in love and you don't know how to bring that message out to the girl. And it just blocked my system. And many years later, I'm still good friends with her. We never ended up in a relationship, but I managed to tell her how much I loved her and how much she meant to me, and how she actually brought me through this huge journey that I've been on since. So I want to say thank you. Thank you, JB. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Virginia and Rusty, and everybody that has helped me bringing out this story and so many more moments in my life. Thank you so much.
All right. Peter.
Peter.
Come on, Peter. I just want to say, Peter was the hardest one to get to write a story. I will give Ashley the award for writing her story, and then at the very 11th hour, the day it was due, she rewrote an entire story and said it until 3 in the morning. I will give Peter the award.
What award do I get?
You get the one for, Peter, when are you going to write your story? Peter, how's your story? Peter, how's your story coming? Peter, your story. What's going on with your story?
Yeah.
Peter, I know you have so much to do with the website, but what about your story?
Did it get done?
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
Little did she know that I was writing it. It just I wrote it and then rewrote it and then rewrote it and then rewrote it, story after story, to find the right one.
He's getting comfy. Let's hear it.
Take a seat.
So I'm not going to tell you my story in the book, because you all can go
Let's
read
hear the
it.
mic. Let's hear the mic.
All right.
Thank you.
Give me a better one.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you about my story, because you all can read it on page 14 in the men's book. Instead, I'm going to tell you the epilogue.
Ooh.
I'm going to tell you about a night moment that I had last night. You haven't heard this one yet.
I was here and you were in Alberta.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So, through how to transition. So, I look out over here and, I see, can I have all the boys in the room raise your hand? Can all the men leave their hands raised? Right, that's what I love. Women, I have to apologize up front. I'm going to do this personally, right? I apologize. We're letting you down. Because there's got to be more men out there, less boys, right? We have tons of boys out there right now, but they're not being transitioned into men. I want to tell you about a dream that I had last night. Went to bed kind of late again, but I knew I had to be up at 3 o'clock, and I passed out. And woke up in the middle of a field, walking along an open road, and I felt strong, I felt powerful, but I was lumbering along. I'm like, what is going on? Something's not right. I look down at myself, and I'm covered in armor. It's dirty, it's bent, it's broken, but I'm still there. And then I flash back that a couple days before, been in a battle, covered with my armor, and I lost my horse, I lost my sword, but I survived. And I was trekking someplace. I knew where I was going, I could feel it. I knew I was heading in the right direction, but I didn't know where I was going. So I just kept along this path, just kept walking. And finally, out in the horizon, I could see this huge castle. I knew that's where I was going. I knew that. I just could feel it in my bones. I knew exactly where I was headed. I knew where in that castle that I had to go be. So I continued to walk along this path and still lumbering along. Come into the village with the castle in it. And like I said, I knew exactly where I was going. Through all the townspeople, I knew the town, but none of the people. I had been gone for years, but I knew I was coming back home. So I walked into the castle, exactly where I was going, down into the center of the depths of this castle, into a room. No windows, just a big room. One thing in this room. It was a round table, just like back here. A huge round table. And I knew this is where I was supposed to be. I knew this is where my journey started many years ago, at this table. But there was one thing missing. I stood at this table, I could feel the presence. There was one thing missing. My king was missing. He was no longer there. He was always there when I was there before. But I could feel him. I could feel the presence of that king. And I finally realized it wasn't the man that I was connected to. It was his spirit. Because everybody that stood around that round table with him, he cared about them. He cared about their soul. He may have sent them out on a journey, out on an adventure, but he cared about them. And it was now my job to take that position at the head of that table, to take over his role of caring for all the boys that stood around that table. And I am excited and I'm honored to be joined by 34 other men around that table. We are the Knights of the Round Table. We are the men that are going to take our boys and move them in to being men. And they so desperately need that. Right, so I promise you women, we will make it up to you, or I will make it up to you.
Hmm.
We will bring the boys into the
Bring it home, so I've learned so much from Peter, and those of you who've known me for a few years, Peter has brought so many gifts into my life, so many treasures, and so much teaching, and has been a rock for me. And I have always wanted to fly, and I've always wanted to soar, and I will let some of you know. Ah, she's not here. My sister is here. Yeah. So my sister, who I've had life with, came tonight to support me and see me. And I've always felt unsupported by everyone in my life, and everyone in my family have always told me there was something wrong with me. There was something strange about me. I didn't belong. And why are you like that? Why do you talk like that? Why do you act like that? Why do you think like that? Why can't you just be different? And Peter is the wind beneath my wings. He really is. He has let me fly. He has let me soar. He has let me do this. He has it. Every single time I come up with a crazy idea.
And there's lots of
And I just want to thank you and honor you in front of everyone, because every single person here gives me tons of credit and tons of accolades and tons of thank yous. I couldn't do it without you. And you absolutely, you ignite me every single moment of the day, and I'm so grateful for you on every level. And thank you for helping me do this dream. And thank you for being a part of this, and thank you for saying yes every time I ask for another thing. Alright, so we'll wrap it up. So when Peter and I were in Turkey over the summer, we were driving in the car and we were talking about Ignite, of course, because you can ask Peter, a day doesn't go by when I don't talk about Ignite. And even after wonderful, intimate moments, I'll be laying there staring at the ceiling and I'll be like, so what do you think about So, what do you think about if we do this for a membership site? How about we should go reach out? Maybe we should go to Paris for our next event. So Peter gets it all. But what we were talking about in Turkey was this: we were driving in the car and we were talking about the amazing opportunity that we all have. That we've all been in victim situations. We've all been wrong done by and hurt and let down and bankrupt or lost our house or been in bad situations, and we've been that victim in the story. And the powerful moment is, and we talked about this, is when you are a victim, do you go villain or do you go hero? And so many of us get honked at and road rage, and we decide, like in that moment, like, I'm gonna get that guy back. You know, we're victimized by someone fingering us as they drive by, and then we turn into villain. Or we're wrong done by a partner or a mate or a boss, and we're victimized by something. And we decide, I'm going to get them. I'm going to show them. I'm going to prove it to them. I'm going to get them back. And we go to villain. And Peter and I were saying, how can we teach our kids and the people and victim, you go to hero. That yes, that happened to me. Yes, I was wrong done by, but I'm going to take the hero's journey. And we so profoundly realize that every one of you who have written your story have been in possible victim mode, if we want to use the word victim, but in victim, and we've gone to hero. And I want to congratulate you all. Congratulate you all and say thank you. It's so brave for you to come up here and share your story. It's so brave for you to put it on paper and send it out to the world. It's so brave for you to have your kids know, your wives know, your husbands know, your family know, your grandparents know, the whole world know your victim moment. And it's so powerful that you stepped into hero. So thank you so much. I honor you. I adore you. I love you, and you ignite me. So thank you. So we're gonna keep growing. We're not giving up. And as much as my team wants me to slow down, sorry, not gonna do it. So tomorrow morning, tonight, I want you to all hug and kiss and love and shower each other with joy and affection and appreciation. Tomorrow morning, we're gonna meet back here at 9. Breakfast will be here again. And then at 9:30, we're going to have a workshop. So I'm going to talk to you all about now what do we do? You've got your book, your bestseller. What can we do? What marketing tips can you do? What social media can you do? I'm going to do a JB workshop for you. I'm going to teach you some of the things that I've learned about being on stage, being in front of a camera. I know some of you don't know that I was a newscaster. I was a fashion reporter. I did news. I was a cruise director. I got all kinds of tricks to tell you. So that will be tomorrow morning. So I'm going to be sharing with you. We're going to be learning some really fun stuff. This is like a learning. So come casual. There'll be no photographers tomorrow. Come casual, come with your notebooks, come relax. We're going to talk about that. It's going to be a really, really fun morning. So I really appreciate you all here. Welcome to learn some really neat things. And we're going to announce what's next at Ignite, of course. All right, so we're going to tell you what's up next at Ignite. Then we're going to let you go for lunch. And tomorrow at 1 o'clock, the bus will be downstairs for those of you who have bought tickets to go up onto the mountain. So we're hoping the weather will hold, but we've asked the scavenger hunt to be in and outdoors of buildings instead of all out in the forest. So it'll be a little bit, it'll be nature. There will be nature tomorrow in the afternoon, so dress for nature. And we'll have a photographer up there to take some fun skyline photos. We've made a reservation at the restaurant so you can eat there. So there's only room for 24 on the bus. So the 24 people who have bought tickets will get on the bus, and the rest of you will make your way. We'll give you the address, and that's what's happening tomorrow. And then we will have dinner up on the mountain. So if that's the deal for tomorrow, if the scavenger hunt is not your thing, we've made bestsellers, so now we got to go party. We got to go relax. We got to go have fun. We got to go enjoy. So bring your fun footwear, bring your raincoat, bring your umbrella, bring whatever, bring your scarf. Come up to the mountain. For those of you who don't want a scavenger hunt, you can still come up on the gondola ride. I think it's $56 to take the gondola ride and come up and have dinner. So there's lots and lots of fun happening. It's still going on.
There's also theater in the sky up there. There's a museum. There's tons of stuff to do up there, so it's not boring.
Yeah, if you want to just come up and see the view and hang out with everything. Yes, go ahead.
So we can, if we didn't buy the ticket, we can go up pay the 56 or whatever it is, go up the gondola, and we can still have dinner with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And so you'll just have to make your way there by taxi or by something like that, or Uber. No, Uber,
There's
taxi.
buses that go all the time. There's
Okay.
Grouse Mountain shuttles.
Grouse Mountain shuttles.
Check out the shuttles.
That's the concierge.
They're always going.
Yeah. Okay. Concierge. I just want to ask by show of hands, who has been inspired by someone else in this room? Oh
my God.
Yeah. And I just want to give a round of applause to the people who came that aren't a part of our community. Thank you, thank you. I want to acknowledge this gentleman right here. So this gentleman saw us at Indigo, and he's followed us. You are now we ignited him. And to
You
my
were there
dear friends,
too.
Also my APESR friends who I know, thank you for coming. Our other friends at the back, thank you all for being here. We really appreciate you showing up. Any other questions about tomorrow? I want you to sleep well tonight. I want you to congratulate yourselves. I want you to go look at yourselves in the mirror and be like, yeah. And look at yourself in the mirror. Look yourself in the eyes and congratulate yourself for how amazing you are. Pat yourself on the back. Celebrate. Yeah. Go ahead, my darling. Yes, one moment, please. I'm sorry I didn't let Narelle speak. This is my very good friend Narelle. She is in Ignite Your Life for Female Leadership. Hi. So I was like, they're probably wondering, who is this lady? So I'm Narelle.
Come up here. You better come up here.
Yeah.
Get on stage, girl.
Okay, and I've had the pleasure of knowing JB for quite a few years, and it was just an instant attraction when we met, and we've had the pleasure of kind of like working together. And when she had this idea, I was like, yeah, that's a great idea. She said, will you be in the book? And I'm like, yeah. And then she called me, she's like, I'm doing the book, are you going to be in the book? I'm like, yeah. She goes, well, you got to pay some money. I'm like, okay. And then the next thing I knew, she's like, well, write the story. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm not going to write the story. I am not going to write the story. And this wasn't going to be about me, it was going to be about you, but I do want to share my Ignite moment. My Ignite moment, and this is a testament to the process that you have.
Yeah, thank you for sharing.
My Ignite moment is that
I was on the group call with the ladies, and they're like, well, is anybody having any difficulty writing? Anyone need support? And I said, well, I'm not writing my story. And they asked me why not. And I said, you know, I don't need to be in this book. I can't be in this book. You're all game changers, and I'm a high school dropout.
Me too.
I do not have a degree. And the ladies were like, you have to write this story. What you may not know about me is that, and one of the things that I'm here also is because we're going to see much more of JB on some amazing platforms across the world, is that I get to place people, not just people, but some of the top motivational speakers in the world. When you see them up on the platform, when you see them speaking, when they're moving you, I'm one of the ones that got them up there, that negotiated it, that saw it. But what I saw tonight was absolute beauty in each and every one of you. And I have heard so many amazing speakers in my life, but tonight I was just touched beyond belief by how true and how courageous each and every one of you were. And by doing that, every single one of us wants to know you more. So if you are in business or you want to be more like that, it's like the more authentic you are, the more people want to know you, and the more people want to hear you, and the more people want to see you, because I fell in love with many of you tonight.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I'm sorry I didn't acknowledge you, but thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
I think we should invite our guest to tell his Ignite story.
Yeah, come on up.
Yes.
Come on up. Come on up. Yeah, so what brings you here tonight? No pressure.
First of all, I was just at Indigo. I just can't believe the stories I've heard, and thank you so much. I was searching, and I think I found something. I have a long life of traveling and corporate life, and I don't find it exactly satisfying either. I think what you all said today was so true, and I'm so happy to hear your true, authentic stories. Mine came through seeing a suicide 20 years ago in Japan, and my whole life has been sort of searching through that. And there's been a lot more death in my life and sadness, but as I walk through this sadness of others, I also learn the beauty of others. It's a very fragile life. We should look at it as a precious thing, and we should always tell the truth of ourselves. This will bring us together. Thank you.
Welcome to the family. Second act author. That's right. Would you like to speak? Would you like to speak? No? Okay, great. All right, so thank you. Thank you again for everyone. So wonderful time. Thank you to Tara and Diana, who did a great job today. All right, get some rest, you amazing authors. Get some sleep, and we will see you in the morning.
So everyone's been asking, right? Stats.
Yay!
It's the end of the day.
Oh yeah!
Woo! So basically, both books, Men's and Parents, is #1 in every region of Amazon.
Oh, #1 in the world!
No, so it's done #1 overall on Amazon, right? Because everything is split up by everything is split up by categories, right? So even to get to the top 1, you have to be in a specific category, right? So at least one category in every region, we are #1. In most regions, you're 2 or 3 categories. Some of them 7, 8 categories. So basically, you're at the top of the charts in every part of the world. Wow. Every part of the world, you're at the top of the charts.
Wow. And that is a testament to your stories. I will tell you, your stories, Parents and Men, astronomical, out of the park, kick it. Like honestly, it was, I know that you know I was doing 70 stories back to back, both books at the same time, and the stories were just one hit after the other after another. It was incredible. And for those of you who are wondering what the order is of the book, I'll tell you, we want great stories at the beginning, we need great stories in the middle, and we need great stories at the end, because we need people to close the book and people want to wait. So that's how we structured the stories, and we wanted people to go on a beautiful journey of, oh my god, that story, okay, I got a reprieve. Oh, that was cute, that was funny. Oh, that was good. Oh my god! So that's how we structure the stories. So we love each and every one of your stories, and we just are so grateful. So tomorrow I'm going to tell you about the next books that are happening and all the things that are going on next, and how we want to play with each and every one of you. And we're just really, really grateful. So before I start crying again, thank you very much and have a great night.
That's good.